When a couple gets married, it is by definition two different people coming into a union. Just because you got married does not mean you are similar in your styles on different things. And one of the areas we see that in is people have very different organizing styles. If you happen to marry somebody that's really neat like you are, that's great. If you happen to marry somebody that's really messy like you are, that's great. Presents its own problems, but that's for another video. What I want to talk about here is, what if one spouse is really neat and wants to be uncluttered, the other spouse is messy and does not mind clutter? What do? Well, the first thing you want to do is realize you married a well-intentioned person. Assume the best of them and that they want to compromise and work through things with you. Do not assume that it is your job or even you're able to change that person. They're not broken. They don't necessarily have to change drastically. You just have to find that happy place where you can come to an agreement. There are three different areas that I see a lot in the professional organizing world where people differ, and the ways they differ affects how they think about clutter. So one example would be somebody is very sentimental and the other person is not. The sentimental person wants to keep everything that was mom and dad's. They feel like they're the family historian. Everything from every vacation is a special memory. The non-sentimental person obviously feels very differently than that. You might see people where one spouse is very, very visual and the other spouse, I know that thing is in the second file cabinet, in the basement, and the blue folder. The person that's visual, however, is terrified, to be honest with you, most of the time, that if I can't see it, if it's out of sight, I will forget about it. And another thing that we see in people, I have seen in people quite a bit, is that there's one spouse that may be very risk adverse and the other's like, we'll be okay. And that plays out in that the risk adverse person is very reluctant to let go of anything because you might need it later. What you want to do is figure out those differences, talk about them. Once you figure out why you're coming at the same thing from a different perspective, you can start dealing with it. So for instance, the sentimental person, you could talk about the idea that if everything's special, nothing's special. Let's pick certain things that we're going to deem as special, to give honor to, but not everything. The person that's visual, yes, you're going to need to keep things out, but it doesn't necessarily have to be over the whole countertop. It can be something that we have special colored file folders for. The person that is risk adverse, maybe they can kind of come to a compromise that 20/20 rule could apply here very well. That I can replace it for under $20. I can replace it in 20 minutes or less. Well, then, you know what? Let those things go. But for the person that kind of wants to get rid of everything, they can step back and go, that would be hard to replace if you even can. That would be very expensive. We'll go ahead and keep that. Neither person's going to walk away getting exactly what they wanted, but you're going to walk off with a more organized home than you had and better communication. And that's a win-win.